All right, let's take this conversation further now. Crossing live to Joti Brar, the Vice Chair of the British Communist Party, joining us here on RT International. Joti, a very warm welcome to you. Thanks for jumping on the programme with us here. A big hello to you. I just wanted to kick it off. The British MP John McDonnell has said that providing support to a state committing war crimes would make the UK complicit to those crimes. He's referring to military aid to Israel. But I want to take this on a broader perspective here. He's saying it's potentially making the UK complicit in war crimes by sending weapons to Israel. But what about all those British and Western weapons that landed directly in the hands of the infamous neo-Nazi Azov Battalion in Ukraine? The Azov Battalion, they are neo-Nazis. They are officially a part of the Ukrainian National Guard. So it's OK to send weapons to neo-Nazis in Ukraine, but apparently it's a problem with Israel. Your thoughts, Joti?
I mean, you've highlighted something very important there, Rory, which is there is an exact correlation between what's happening in Palestine and what's happening in Ukraine. In both cases, the Western powers are backing up a fascistic state with a supremacist ideology against people who live there. In both cases, you have a state which is essentially a supremacist state, an ethnic apartheid state, where the supremacists try to keep down and even wipe out physically the native local populations. So yes, you're right, war crimes are being committed in both places with the backing, support, even under the direction, in fact, of the Western imperialist powers. And really what we're seeing here is not outrage by our parliamentarians, but a huge wave of pressure on those parliamentarians, because for the first time, the blatant nature of British imperialism's complicity in support for backing of direction of war crimes is being made clear to huge numbers of people who never saw it so clearly before.
That's a very strong statement there. I appreciate you saying that on international television, Joti. I wanted to ask you about Amnesty International accusing the Ukrainian military of putting civilians in harm's way by establishing bases and operating weapons systems in directly residential areas. Wouldn't the UK government then be obligated by its own laws to suspend its arms export licenses to Ukraine?
Of course, that's why our media never, ever covers these stories in such a way, and why our politicians, if it does get covered somewhere in the back pages, don't pick up on it. The only way they're going to pick up on it is if there's a mass movement from the streets, making them feel in fear of their jobs and of the stability of their system, which is exactly what they're feeling right now with the wave of support for Palestine.
What do you think, Joti? Over a dozen British MPs have called on the UK to stop its arms exports to Israel. Do you think they'll succeed?
No, I don't think they'll succeed. I think it's likely that they will succeed in creating a little bit of, as the war continues, I think the pressure is going to continue. And what's likely to happen is some talk about resuscitating the control mechanisms or re-examining the control mechanisms, which, of course, we've seen don't work at all, right? The control mechanisms that have been set up are a sham. They've been put up at another time of pressure. Apparently there's an oversight committee to inspect, who we're selling arms to. And those are the ones that go through certain channels. That committee hasn't met since last March, right? So it's not working. It's clearly just a little frill to make you feel better about the system and, nothing to see here. Don't worry, we've got oversight. But that's not even the deals that they inspect are not all the deals that happen. Apparently, there are plenty of loopholes that mean a whole lot of arms get sold without being written down anywhere, essentially. So there is no ability to oversee what isn't really being recorded.
Joti, one thing that really stands out to me regarding the UK's support for Israel is the fact that the UK has such an enormous Muslim Islamic population. And when the war kicked off in Gaza, Rishi Sunak, he flew over to Israel to show solidarity, this, that and the other. But I couldn't believe he did that. I was shocked, actually, when you consider his constituents, you consider his voter base in the UK, you consider the enormous Muslim population that is almost entirely on the side of the Palestinians. And yet here's the UK government almost giving the cold shoulder to an enormous Muslim population in the UK. Why do you think the UK government has not pushed for a ceasefire in Gaza?
You know, our politicians and media have got used to being in control of the narrative and being able to ignore popular sentiment because it's never really covered or explored or reflected back at people. We're told what we think by the media, who are really reflecting or what the ruling class thinks, what they think. And I think they forgot that this is an issue which is not a new one. And they don't control the narrative because holes have been being punched in their narrative for 75 years. It's not a new story. And there have been strong upsurges of pro-Palestinian feeling, regularly through the course of this history. So it's an ongoing education for the supporters of Palestine in Britain, not only for the ruling class. We've been learning lessons along the way, and if you go onto the streets and see those demonstrations, you're right. There are many Muslims organised there, but they're not only Muslims.
Yeah,
there's a lot of anger coming from the population at large because, as I said, this is not a new story.
Yeah, I think it's a very good comment, Joti. I appreciate you saying that again. Let me just ask you a personal question, if I can. I haven't been to the UK in a number of years now. I'm under sanctions from my own UK government because I work for Russia Today. So the moment I cross the border into the UK, they're going to bag me and essentially do whatever the hell they want to me. But I just wanted to ask you that, the state of political affairs in the UK, do people in general still trust the narratives coming out of the UK government?
There's been a declining trust in the narratives coming from the government and the media, really ever since the invasion of Iraq. And that's now 20 years ago. So that was already falling. Brexit gave it a big push down again. And now this latest assault on Gaza, the speed with which the lies that were told in our corporate media about what was really happening were exposed has been a massive accelerant to that process, along with the way in which every single one of the leading politicians in Britain stood up to support Israel unconditionally in committing its war crimes, refuses to admit that war crimes are being committed, although the whole world can see it, refuses to condemn any of the terrible, heinous acts of Israel, and continues arming them. I am sure there are British military personnel out there, although they're not being admitted to. So all of this is really blatant now in the faces of the British people, and it's caused a massive downturn again in the levels of legitimacy of our media and of our politicians.
It's just such a good commentary right there that you will not hear on the mainstream media channels. Joti Brar, the Vice Chair of the British Communist Party, joining us live here on RT International. What a refreshing conversation. Thank you very much for your time.